Sam McLean. I've been with the city since January of 1995. I started my employment with the City of Johnson City in January of 95 as an intern when I was completing my city management degree from East Tennessee State University. I was an intern for roughly around a year and 8 months because I became a full-time employee of Public Works on October 23rd of 96. And I started working in the solid waste department as a operations manager. So then I joined the building department in February of 98. I went to the building department as a building inspector, but primarily I was assigned to doing code enforcement with signs and substandard housing. And I transferred to the fire department on November 5th of 2000 to become a fire marshal in the fire marshal's office. So I started there under Chief Souter in November of 2000. And during my time with the fire department, I've had several roles. Initially was a fire marshal, and then I became a canine dog handler through the ATF canine program. It would have been in April of 2002, and I actually was in the fire marshal's office and was a dog handler up until 2011. We retired the dog, and then I actually transferred back out on shift as a firefighter, and I've been assigned I was a firefighter up until 2018, and then I actually became a driver engineer, got promoted, and now that's where I currently am as a driver engineer on Engine 7 in Johnson City. When they came out with the stations to where you wanted to go, and 7 was my least favorite of all of them. But since I've been out at 7 since then, it's kind of grown on me, and I'm kind of proud to be at 7 because it's an interesting station. It's got its own quirks like every other zone does, but it's kind of an interesting place for me, and I plan on finishing my career at Engine 7. But I'm actually a state certified firefighter level 2, and I'm also an advanced EMT. So in the city of Johnson City, we run medical calls as well as fire calls. So if you call for any type of a medical emergency, you're likely to see a fire truck show up as well as an ambulance. The idea came across is we'd had a pretty bad call, and due to HIPAA and stuff, I don't know if I can get into the details of that affected me a great deal. As a result of this one call that we'd run, it was a shooting, and I had some sleepless nights, and combined with that, I had a really bad sinus infection. So we went back to the station, and we're sitting there at the station, and about every 30 minutes, I'd either wake up from a nightmare or from the sinus drainage in the back of my throat. We've all dealt with post-traumatic stress. I mean, to be quite honest with you, I know that I have post-traumatic stress. But I've found a good way of dealing with it. I've got my own way of dealing with it, and I've not had any kind of real bad problems with it, but I do have my own, sometimes I'll have issues. And for an example, what I'm speaking for me is that, nightmares is pretty common, things like that. And I kind of felt like that, well, I know there's other people that probably deal with this, and that have successfully dealt with it, but there may be people out there, especially young guys, that don't know how to deal with that don't know how to deal with that, or the stress and the things that come with that. So it was an idea. I reached out to Matt. I said, hey man, let's just think about doing some videos to try to get started, to kind of put it out there and say, listen, hey, it's normal to feel that way, and we've got to do better as a fire service across the board of trying to take care of one another. They say it's a brotherhood, and it is a brotherhood for the most part, but we got to do a better job, because if someone is struggling with that, we need to kind of help identify that and try to get them the help they need. We've got other people that I've talked to that are seasoned people that have been with the fire department longer than I have, and it used to be a thing to where if you had something that was a stressful situation that you actually were dealing with, that you just say, oh, you just tough it up and just suck it up and move on, just suck it up and move on. Well, we're finding out now is that it's probably one of the worst things we could have done. So there's other people that we're going to bring on board that's going to kind of tell their story, and and talk about it, and know that there may be somebody out there that watches this video that may be dealing with some tough things as a result of things they've seen, that maybe they need to reach out to somebody to get some help. So that's kind of what we're wanting to do, is start a foundation and try to provide an avenue for someone, if they need help, they can get that help. I had a fire myself. I was actually working on December 5th of 2020, and I get a call from my wife that my house had caught fire as a result of a cooking fire. And I'm telling you, dealing with that is an overwhelming thing, and that's one of the first videos we want to try to sit down and do is try to get an informational video out there, because I've dealt with, I did a number one time of how many how many fires I'd been on in my career, and I'm estimating well over 600 that I've been on. And we never thought, I know as a firefighter, I never thought about what's that person going through, you know. If someone loses their house or whatever, and if someone gets injured or something happens to their house, about what they're going through. Well, with my case is thankfully no one was hurt, no pets were injured, my son and my daughter made it out perfectly fine. But the house had some smoke damage and had some water damage to the kitchen area and stuff like that. And it is unbelievable the amount of overload that you go through when you're going through that process. I had a great insurance company that were great to me. I had a really good restoration company that came in and helped me get my house put back in order. But it's overwhelming. And when I came back from that fire, that was an interesting it's an interesting story. It was 3 weeks of mine as I had gotten over COVID. I got COVID and took my Thanksgiving away. On December 5th, I had the house fire that the house got nearly destroyed in it. And then I had a colonoscopy on the 9th. So that 3 weeks of there was an interesting 3 weeks in my life, because, you know, once you turn 50, you got to have the colonoscopy, and it topped off my 2 weeks. And we were going through our physicals at the time, and it was funny, they asked me about stress. They said, well, do you have any stress? And I'm like, well, COVID, house fire, colonoscopy. So it was pretty stressful, like 3 weeks for me, you know, but made it through it. But that's what I guess I want to say is that regardless of how bad your day is there's somebody out there in worse shape than you are. That's something we've always heard. And that's what I want to, is just kind of take with this channel and stuff, is that we're wanting to do is some informative videos. When people have questions about, you know, our home insurance, we're going to try to get an insurance person in here to talk to them, get a professional that tells you about those. Because there's things that I didn't know. I had no idea what to do on that stuff, and I had to ask questions. And it's you know, how do you do these claim forms, and how do you walk through that, and what will my insurance cover and what won't they cover? So we're wanting to do something like that to give someone an informative video to say, hey, my house burned down, what do I do? Because there's a lot of stuff out there. And we want to get an insurance person in here to talk about it and give them some heads up on what people need, the information they need to know. Because I'm telling you is there's no sicker feeling in your life than to have a house that you've worked for, that's the home for your kids and your wife, to be taken away from you. It was a tough time, but thankfully we made it through it. It was tough, and just want to let people know that, hey, you're not the only one that's gone through this, and there's help out there to help you get through it. And that's what we're also hoping to do with that, is to try to help families that are affected by fires, whether it's by fire or by flood or whatever. Anything you do to lose your house, you know, it could be any number of things, but it's something we want to try to get working on.